want to talk about copywriting. I think all of us do it here. Is there anybody that does not use copywriting in this room? Okay, so yeah, we all need to know this. So a little bit about me. I've done affiliate marketing since I was a kid, since I was 18, and so I'm 32 now. So I've been doing it for a while, and I recently had, I've done pretty well in a lot of verticals, and recently was the copywriter for a company that it's a company that was billing anywhere between $80,000 to $200,000 a day, and all I was doing was their copywriting. So when you have that much data, you're able to split test a lot of things, and you can see what works really quickly. So I've learned a few things, and I kind of wanted to share. I'm going to do 2 presentations today. This one, I'm going to cover just some overlying principles, and then in the next presentation, I'm going to share specifically some funnels to get you guys out of the advertorial, which is like the affiliate go-to. But we'll go into that in the other one. So in this one, just want to cover 7. It's pretty simple. Just 7 mistakes most people make when they're writing copy. And I've been working with John, and we see a lot of people coming in to the affiliate marketing space, and I see their landers. And this is kind of what prompted this, is just very common things that people tend to do. So without further ado, right? So these mistakes are roadblocks that stop you from being successful through your copy. And I'm a big believer in studying success, but I'm also a big believer on studying what doesn't work. So you can study. You can study all you want. Let's say you want to be a basketball player, right? So you can study Michael Jordan all you want, but it doesn't paint the full picture up until the point where you have somebody that's tried to be Michael Jordan and failed, right? It's important to see the contrast, and you can learn a lot from the differences. You can see, okay, they took this approach, and that's what was wrong about it. So I want to share to you the don'ts. All right. So this is, if you can just take one thing out of this presentation, just take this one. This is it. It's not being clear on what your offer's main benefit is. And what a lot of us do when we start writing copy is we simply just kind of put stuff out there, and we're like, all right, so I'm gonna try teeth whitening, right? Or let's say flashlights. So I'm gonna just start throwing stuff up. I'm gonna start mentioning all the features, all the things that they do, that the flashlight does, and I'm just gonna put it all on the page. And it's kind of it's a huge guessing game. So this is the biggest problem, So what you want to do when you're writing copy is you want to really spend a lot of time in figuring out the emotional reason why people are going to buy. And it's not easy. What most of us do is we just kind of wing it, and we test a lot of things, but most people just kind of do testing for the sake of testing, rather than try to come up with the emotional points. So for example, I'll give you guys an example here. I've used this before, so I'll just keep sharing this. Just because it's pretty good for demonstrations. This is a lander that I shared before. that it did pretty well selling this flashlight. So when I first started this, I was literally just throwing stuff up, and there wasn't really any rhyme or reason. It was just a lot of little tests. But when I actually started to dial it in, is when I actually started to figure out the why people were buying this. And I started using an emotional angle. So what we did, we started saying about protecting your family, right? Like it was the angle of, not saying all the features or benefits, like this thing is waterproof or, whatever it is, or it's very durable. I mean, we include those, but we became very, very clear on what was it that made people buy this. And it's not, it's something that you have to, this is the beauty of copywriting. This is where the art comes in. And it was sort of like hidden, like the reason why people were buying this was because they wanted to have a flashlight that they can rely on, that their family would, that they would be able to like have in case of any emergency, and they would be able to protect their family. So that's, once we started hitting that angle, like you can protect your family, then it became profitable. And that's, so it's not very easy to kind of like get to this point. Yeah?
Sorry if I'm jumping ahead, but what was the process that you went through to get to that main point, that it was about the family, and that's what was most important?
So I like to use something, so there's this book called Cashvertising. I highly, highly recommend it. And it talks about something called the Life Force 8. And the Life Force 8, it's basically 8 key emotions that every human being has. So I always have this book on my desk, and I'm always referring to it. You guys should definitely check it out. It's very, very good. And what it does is like like those 8 emotions are basically what makes you human. So those, so there's nobody that doesn't want to protect their loved ones, for example. And I don't know them by heart, but it's do you know them by heart, Ronnie, by any chance? Yeah, so it's survival, protecting your family, being superior. Yeah, he's got it right there. Being superior, being healthy, living a long life. And they're check them out. So I basically, my process for finding what the main, what the emotional driver for my landing pages is I'm going to test different headlines within those 8 things. So some of them will fit a lot better for any specific product. So for the flashlight, the one that fits is protection of your loved ones. So that's I tested a couple of them, and that's basically how I reached this trigger. And the thing is, like, once you're systematically testing those 8 things, like I could say, for example, this doesn't really apply for this lander, but if we were going to test it, like being one of the Life Force 8 is being superior or keeping up with the Jonases. So I could say, like, yeah, you're going to have a better flashlight than your neighbors or whatever, So I would maybe test that. I mean, it doesn't work well with this product, but I would test that, and if people respond to that, that's the emotional angle, is being superior, In the same way, like people don't buy for the reasons that we don't buy for the reasons that we often like logic ourselves into thinking, okay, So for example, I'm going to give you an example, like Tesla. I know a lot of people that have Teslas, and Teslas are super cool. They're good for the environment. You get for example, you get free parking here in Santa Monica when you drive an electric car. It's it's kind of like a computer, and it's got all these benefits. But the people that I know that have Teslas, I think that it's mainly why you want to spend so much money on a car is because you're like, okay, this is going to make me feel cooler than most people. So, nobody's actually going to admit that. You have to kind of go inside yourself and empathize with your customer. But that's what you have to do as a copywriter. You have to, what's the real reason that most people won't actually admit, not even to themselves, but what's the real reason that people would purchase this product? And once you start going into the emotions, that's where you're playing around in the profitable area of copywriting. So that's sort of if you could just take one thing, is learn to find the one thing that makes people want to purchase your product. Okay. All right, so mistake number 2, not doing research on your customers' desires. And there's going to be sort of an overarching theme to this, and it's basically don't test just to test. Don't just randomly throw shit up there, but rather have a system of doing split tests that's based on emotional, reactions. So a lot of people will skip this part. John John actually covered research on your competitors. This is actually a little bit different. What you want to do is you want to go into forums, you want to go into Facebook groups, you want to go into any place that you think that where your customer is going to be at. So for example, I recently was testing a coffee product. We were selling a coffee product. So one of the biggest question marks on that was why do people buy coffee? Why do people buy coffee? And there's all these reasons, and you have to go into for example, in our case, we went into coffee addicts. Coffee addicts kind of they have a certain pride into being loving coffee, and there's all these forums and that you can find for people that are yeah, I love coffee, and they just kind of it's like a culture, So that's where I went to do my research, and I just read, I'm just seeing, listening to their language. What are the reasons people buy? And that's the main thing. What do they love about coffee in this example? So they love is it the energy? Is it, is it the taste? Is it the ritual? And all of these things are valid, but you have to know that, and then you systematically have to list them, and then start putting them as your main benefit to see which one does the best. And the thing about it, the way I've evolved into writing landing pages now is it's so simple. The landing pages are so simple. And they tend to do way better than super cluttered because there's no guesswork. There's I systematically arrived to the main benefit, and then that's it. That's all the page is going to say. I may throw a couple features and a special offer, but the main gist of it is that's it. You don't. So when you're writing your landers, think of it as being Apple, right? The way Apple does it, their marketing is super, super simplistic, and it's very, very effective. They don't, or for example, Pepsi, this is an old one. I don't even like Pepsi, but like their slogan is like the flavor of the new generation or whatever. They don't try to come up with like 10 slogans into one or like a long pitch. They just have like one thing, and that's what they stick with, and then they spend millions and millions of dollars into this one thing. And that's because it works, they tested this. So in the same way, you're just basically taking the customer through this journey of this one thing in your landing pages. So that's basically what you want to be doing. And again, like a lot of it comes from the research. Most of the products that I've sold throughout my life has been to women. So a lot of times I'm like, really, people buy this? That's my first reaction. But then I start getting into it. I start seeing like what makes customers like tick, and then I understand like, okay, you want to be able to understand your customer. You want to be able to empathize and be able to name all the things that they like, all their fears, all their desires. And once you're able to do that, you're going to be very, very, very successful. Okay, so yeah, like number 3 is not identifying what emotion or trigger will make your customer purchase. I mean, I'm kind of like jumping around here. But yeah, this is super, super key. It's like the difference between the thing about it is a landing page that works and a landing page that doesn't work. If you put them next to each other, that you won't even be able to tell the difference. Like a lot of pages like that I've, for example, like if I take a page that when I started split testing it, and before it was profitable and after it was profitable, you would think it's the same thing. You would literally just look at it and be like, this is the same thing. But so it's very, very subtle, and it's like the little things that you're like sniping at people. Like it's like a sentence, and you're taking them through this story that you don't actually want to like give it away. Like you don't actually have to say, hey, look, go buy this. But all you're doing is like you're throwing all these like ideas that are like, hey, the product, you're throwing all these like hopeful ideas. So for example, is like teeth whitening. You're just saying like your teeth are gonna look so much better. You're gonna feel so much better. It takes 10 years out of the way you look. It will get you a better job. And like you're throwing all these things. But you're not actually making the customer do anything. You're just like, hey, this is what happens when your teeth are whiter. It's just a byproduct, and it's easy. And you're just putting all this stuff out there, like kind of like just making their brain work. You're just like this. You're just setting them up, and they're knocking it out. If that makes sense. And that's sort of the process. Yeah?
What platform do you use to test your landers, and how much data, how many visits or impressions do you want to look at before you make a call on it if it's got a certain percentage, in the...
I'm super, super late to the game of volume. John swears by it, and I'm like, it takes away so much time for me. But I've been getting into volume. I was using Optimizely before. But I think volume. There's a lot of power in volume, and what other one? God, I forget the name right now. I'll have to look it up for you. I haven't used it in a couple months, but that one's really good for multivariate testing. But the main one I'm using right now is volume. that'll give you all the information that you need. I mean, there's multivariate testing and there's split testing. For the most part, what I do is split testing. Yeah, because you need, I mean, especially at the beginning, multivariate testing is once you have a lot of volume, you can, test. But initially, you want to be making big changes, So I'll just, and a lot of times to answer, I mean, truthfully, a lot of times I'll just do a test for a day. I'll spend over what my payout is. So let's say my payout is $60. I spent 100. Didn't make a sale. I just throw away that lander. I'm like, this is garbage. Doesn't work. Like, what's the point of me split testing it anymore? So I just redo, and I do big changes. And if you don't have sales, what you want to do is you want to look at click-through rate. You want to look at you want to look at click-through rate to your ads. So if I don't know, for example, like Facebook, your ads are less than 7% click-through rate, but no sales. You're like, okay, the ad is the problem. If the click-through rate is good, then I'm like, all right, the ad is working. It's the lander. If the landing page has a poor click-through to the offer, then that's the problem right there. The lander's not working. If I'm getting tons of clicks to the offer and it's not converting, I'm like, this offer is just not doing well, So I just I go by whatever data I have. I don't necessarily, there's no specific system, but once you have sales, then, the fun begins. Yeah. I'll repeat your question. Yeah, so that's so the question is how do you identify the emotion or the trigger? And it's by looking at the data. The short answer is simply by looking at the data, whatever data you have. The whole thing is like not guessing when you're doing your tests. You may not, at the beginning, you're not going to know what's going to work, but you're testing something specific. That's the big difference, if that makes sense.
It does, but how do you find the specifics to start?
Okay, how do you find the specifics to start? That's what he's asking. So it's the Life Force 8. That's my starting point. Yeah. And I literally go put the list. I pull the list out. You can just Google it, Life Force 8 cast advertising, and I go like, all right, which one of these apply to my product, to the product that I'm trying to promote? So for example, if I'm doing dating, it's like obviously being appealing to the opposite sex. That's a pretty obvious one. So I go like, all right, that's the emotional trigger. I'm going to test this one. I'm going to test this one. And there's usually like 2 or 3 that are obvious ones. And then I just tried systematically doing like tests within these. And I do it, the first thing you're going to, if you're running affiliate offers, the first thing, or just any campaign really, the first thing you're going to test, the first place you're going to test it out is in your ad. So you don't even need to write the whole landing page to know, like, all right, this ad is obviously generating a lot more interest. Yeah?
Yeah, because your main point, your headline, and your benefit have to be the same on the lander as they are in the ad. If they're different, then you'll see a huge drop off on your lander too.
Yeah, it's the emotional reason is there, but sometimes it pays off very well when you present them in a different, like a twist. The ad, for example, I guess a way to do this is not quite telling the whole story, but just using the angle, which I do this a lot, using the angle of intrigue. of like, what is this thing that's causing this result? And then they have to click to the lander to find out. So that's another, I'm not necessarily giving away like the emotional reason there. It's just generating intrigue. Okay, so this is my favorite mistake. It's crazy, like trying to cram everything you can into your copy. This is a really, really common one, and it's like you basically write everything out, right? You're like, all right, this product does this, does that, does this, and you're excited. You don't actually know which one works, but you're like, I'm gonna put all of it. And that's common. That's way more common than it should be. You know, like people, you're like, there's space. It doesn't cost me anything to just put it all on the landing page. Why wouldn't I? That's sort of the logic. And you know what I found is that you can confuse the customer pretty easily the more stuff you throw. So you want to be kind of, I mean, my approach is doing like very minimalistic, like just making sure that, okay, this makes sense, it's clear. And the difference between one or the other is I'd rather say one thing that is very clearly understood that 10 things that the customer is going to forget. You know, like the whole thing, I read this book on like Apple's approach, and their whole thing is, like Steve Jobs' thing was, you don't have the world's attention. You don't, like, the world is busy. There's so much stuff going on. You can only get across one simple idea. So if you just stick to your idea, you're going to be a lot more successful than trying to do it all, you know. So this is one of my favorites. I'll actually show you this example. There's two landers here. This is like I don't know if you get, well, yeah, I think you guys will be able to tell the difference on this one. Like I said, it's kind of subtle. A lot of times you can't really tell, but so this is the busy one that I consider like too busy. So there's a lot of stuff going on here, and you know, what is it, like one headline, then another, and there's 3, 4, 5 different sections. This is another section over here. There's like all this stuff here, and by the way, something, a lot of this is kind of like, you know, I developed just with instinct, but the reason, and I've hired copywriters myself. I've hired copywriters, and the way I can tell someone is a great copywriter is my eye just goes into the text. Like if I just see this and it just looks so busy, this to me is, you know, it's too busy. There's like too much, like for example here, it's like too much, like trying to do way too much. And if my eye just goes like, oh, there's stuff there, but doesn't actually want to read it, then I know, like, this is terrible copy. You know, and a lot of times it's very, very subtle. I'll show you the one. These are kind of like tests right now. It's not, we're just testing this. Can't believe I'm sharing it here. But, so simplified, one headline, one sub-headline, FDA approved, giant, right? Then here's how to quickly remove yellow stains from your teeth, giant. Like it's simple, you know, so my eye just kind of like is able to, I can process this, and I don't know if you guys can see it. I mean, look at presenting it like this, it's almost like, you know, it's almost like the same thing, but it's not. It's way clean. It's cleaned out, and the differences between, you know, like great copy and mediocre copy is sometimes something that's very, very subtle. So yeah, just one thing here, total time, 2 hours, FDA approved. And it's like dumbed down. It's the reason why Donald Trump, got his message across. It was like just very, very simple, like the language he uses. And so you want to do the same thing. You want to just focus on less, but clearly delivered. And a lot of it is also the visual aspect. You want to get rid of all the clutter. I've tested this many, many times, and simple always does better. All right, so this one is subtle, but it's very, very powerful. Mistake number 5: making assumptions about what your customer wants or doesn't want. And what I mean by this is a lot of times you will skip through something that you would otherwise test, but and I do, I'm guilty of this myself, and I have to literally tell myself, no, I don't know that. I literally don't know that. Why wouldn't I test that? Because what we do is we think we are the customer, and if you are the customer of your product, that's amazing. That's a huge advantage. But if you're an affiliate and you're promoting all sorts of things, a lot of times, and most of the time for me, I'm not a big shopper. I don't buy stuff from ads. So if I went by my own assumptions, I would never think that people were going to buy weight loss supplements, or that people were going to sign up to rebills or stuff like that. You would think, okay, it's just working out is going to work. That's working out and eating healthy. That's the way. But a lot of times people just want a magic solution. So you have to step back and not make any assumptions in your tests. And this is super important. So yeah, you wanna anything that you see that is based on the Life Force 8, you want to test it. You don't want to you want to come in as a blank page. And just because something worked in one vertical, or something you tested in another vertical didn't work, you don't want to make the assumption that, okay, this is either going to work or not going to work. You want to test everything. And this is sort of I guess the most practical application that I can tell you for this is in the ads. Sometimes stuff that's crazy for us, you want to have zero prejudice and just put it up there. And a lot of stuff will work. I mean, I've found some very, very profitable things by literally being all right, I'm open-minded here. I'm going to see if this is going to work before I make any assumptions. So yeah, that's a big one. Mistake number 6, not paying enough attention to the headlines. So the statistic is, Ogilvy says that the statistic is 5 to 1 people are only going to read your headline. They're so your headline is basically your landing page. Your headline is, to most people, to about to a large group of people, all they're going to see is your headlines. So that's where you need to put 80% of your effort. And when you're testing stuff out, test headlines above anything. And even more importantly, the top headline. And that's such an overlooked fact. That's it. By just changing, one of the tests that I was doing recently, by just changing the headline, and it was it was one word in the headline, the conversion rate dropped 20%, just because we took one word out of the headline. And that's with a ton of volume. So it's like, it's crazy. Like your headline is the absolute, especially, like the main headline is the most powerful thing in your landing page. So, a lot of us just kind of know that, but we don't really apply it. So, my goal here is just kind of remind you of some of the basics, and just don't forget, like your headline is the landing page. Then, once you have that, once you have the headlines, you do the rest, but most of it will go into your headline. Yeah, and this is mistake number 7, just split testing for the sake of split testing, not really being systematic about anything you're doing. It's just like a big blob. So, you can get by and you can find some stuff that's going to work, but it's going to cost you a lot more money than if you develop a system for the way you're doing your tests. So you want to do like, okay, this, I'm testing this, I'm testing that. I'm not making any assumptions. And if this one doesn't work, also like this is also for your sake, for if for example you're testing stuff and nothing is working, you can, like, your system can be your go-to. Instead of getting frustrated, you look at, all right, like, you didn't try anything. You didn't try everything. You may feel like you tried everything, but let's look at what you actually tested. This emotion, you tested this, you tested that, or you didn't. And until you like systematically gone through the whole process, then you can't really tell what's profitable or not. So you want to take the systematic approach to developing landing pages. Yeah, and this is a bonus. It's trying to logic your customer into buying. So by telling them, here is the, guarantee, for example. A guarantee is a logical close. Like it's the difference to give a specific example. It's the difference between in the flashlight campaign. It's the difference between saying this has like strobe, this has like SOS mode, this is indestructible, versus saying this is going to protect your family. It's a very, very, very powerful difference. So you don't. This is another pretty interesting fact about writing copy. A lot of times, you don't actually mention the product. Like you don't actually, not always, but a lot of times, best copywriters don't actually talk about the product. The product is sort of like the byproduct. And think about I like this example. Think about the reason why people want to win the lottery, right? So the lottery, the lottery ticket is the product, but that's not why people buy the lottery ticket. The product is being able to quit your job and just be like, living life and spending $20 million in a giant house all of a sudden, and just going and living the life for nothing. That's the product. But so if you're trying to sell a lottery ticket, that's what you do. You want to take the customer to the point where after he purchased the product and he got the results of the product, and that's the approach you want to take. So that's why a lot of times we don't mention the product, because it's not about the product. It's about what happens after, like after you drank the cup of coffee, then you're feeling energized. Then you started your day, like it was great coffee. So like you're happy now, like your mood is better, you're focused, and these are the reasons people buy, and it's why it's the reason why we don't mention the product a lot of times. It's not really about the product. So I think that's it, guys. I'll do another one, and Yeah, I'll do another one, and I'll show you like specific types of funnels, and I'll break down. I'll give you 3 funnels that I've consistently been able to beat the advertorial type of landing page. I'll get into that. All right. Thank you, guys. Any questions, by the way? Yeah. Let me see if they have questions. Yeah.
This is a question more about the offers. How do you, what's a good offer? I'm on the agency side, so I don't have as much experience as an affiliate marketer. But what's a good offer, and how do you find offers? And in your opinion, what's a good offer?
Yeah, so you basically, I mean, I rely a lot on what people are testing, what I see, like my friends. Like I ask around, what are you doing? And you know, being an affiliate is kind of like you go by the trends. If you see something is kind of doing well, and you hear that someone else is doing well, that's why you want to come to places like this. You know, just one thing that somebody tells you, like, oh yeah, that's how. For example, just to give you a specific example, like how I started promoting flashlights was that I was over there, and a friend of mine was like, oh yeah, this guy's like killing it with flashlights, and I'm like, I've seen this product before. I didn't even know it was like an affiliate product. I thought it was, I don't know, I didn't really think much about it, and I'm like, yeah, I'll give it a try. It was just a word of mouth kind of thing. Or also, you know, I like specific verticals, and I go also by, I listen to my affiliate managers. They're like, try this offer, it's doing really well. Okay, I'll try it out.
What does something like that pay, like on a? You know,
I'm sorry?
What does something like that pay, like when you deliver a lead or make a sale?
Oh, I don't know, like depends. Like teeth whitening, for example, pays $55 to $60. Yeah. So, any other questions?
When you're starting off with, you know, getting into an offer, you're talking about the Life Force 8. Are you testing multiple aspects of the Life Force 8, or do you kind of just dive all into one, and then if
yeah, no, I usually, okay, the truth is usually there's like 1 or 2 that are obvious for the product, you know, but I will test 1 or 2, you know, I'll test 2 and sometimes 3, but most of the time it's just like 2 really that are obvious.
Okay.
Like one of them is like the love for enjoying food, right? So that's like an obvious, enjoying food and beverages. So that's like an obvious one for coffee, for example.
What about like in general, once you decide that you're gonna, you know, put your effort into running an offer, how often do you, if ever, you know, just fail?
Yeah, I mean, it happens. It happens. I mean, sometimes it takes months, you know. I mean, I've had offers that I just like this story with a friend of mine. We spent like 5 months literally just locked in an office, just every day testing stuff, and it was very frustrating. And it was like, okay, nothing's working, man, nothing's working. And then when things hit, it was insane. Like it totally paid off. You know, we went from like 0 to like 100K a month, and it was like, all right, cool. You know, that was one of my first like big campaigns.
What was, like you said that like something just changed like after the work you put in. What was like, you know, in general, was it like?
In general, this was back in the day. In general, what changed was we went through like 3 different offers, like 3 different verticals. So we tried ringtones, then we tried what is it? I can't remember. Then we switched to weight loss, and then we tried green tea was the rage back then. But we were doing one before, so it was like switching from, I want to say acai. It wasn't acai, it was before acai, but like acai we were testing green tea, and then we switched to the new thing, which was like acai, and that's what did it for us. So, I mean, the biggest lesson is don't really give up. You know, like if you've never had a campaign, you will doubt it, you will be very frustrated, and it sucks, you know, and it happens. But like I literally never met anybody who's stuck with it who isn't making a ton of money right now. Like not a single person. I remember this one guy, he was a friend of mine, but another friend of mine was funding him. And he was like really mad because he kept doing all these tests and nothing worked. And he's like, I'm just throwing money with this guy, man. Like nothing is working. And he stopped funding him. And then this guy just didn't stop. And now he's killing it. Like, and that's a story I like to remember. You know, it's this guy just literally persisted through it. Even when he, didn't have any money to test anything, he just kept going, and now he's like really, really big affiliate.
On the topic of split testing for split testing's sake, can you give some insight into or point to a resource for like what's the strategy or pattern for split testing in a functional way instead of just an organized but still random?
So what I like to do is I like to keep a file on my computer where I'm like, when I first start, I will write down like, all right, this is the emotion. Is it this emotion? And I actually recently recorded myself going through this. I should put those videos up, but it's like I did like a series of videos where I'm systematically recording it, like going through it. So I'm like, all right, here is this emotion. I'm going to test this emotion, and then if this doesn't work, I'm going to test this emotion. If that doesn't work, then I'm going to test this emotion. And then actually, what you can do is you want to. It depends, It's always, it's kind of an art form, but if you feel that like two are kind of, you're not sure, like okay, this or this, you just throw them up, throw different variations of that one, and then the one that does better, obviously, that's the one, and then you dig deep into that one, So figuring out the main emotion is not the biggest challenge, I guess. Like figuring, like the details of how to present that emotion is the real challenge, Like that's what really is going to make your landing pages profitable. If that makes sense. Cool. Any more questions? All right, guys. Thanks.